have to push the button twice. God, George Jetson would go berserk if he had to push a button twice.
Technology is just whip and run. Now I wouldn't.
Open your brew hopper.
Let's just take these guys down a notch.
Or if we take them down a notch,
what do you think this eye means?
Do we have? Don't touch that button.
Oh no! Man, I'm telling you.
Oh, now you've done it.
Okay, I'm trying to figure out all these buttons.
You know, I am looking at my computer. There is a button for every letter and every number. What is going on here?
Well, the good news is, Robert, you can customize those buttons so that they'll do different things, but
Oh
nobody will
no,
know
I don't
what
even
they
want to
are.
go there.
Now, here's what I'm looking at. What happened to
What are you looking at?
I'm trying to figure out why my screen is not as bright as... Here it is.
there,
Here we
there.
go. There's the one I'm looking
There
for.
you go. Oh,
You know,
there's a screen brightness
I
problem.
think I was having a moment of synesthesia. I was thinking, people that know what synesthesia is, I was thinking I wanted to turn the sound down, but
you turned down the brightness.
down the brightness,
Oh,
and then it tasted wrong. So, all right, guys.
And I can't hear it now because it's too dark.
All right, you guys that are wondering what we're talking about, look up synesthesia. We're too busy to do that today. Hey, good morning, Robert Strong.
Good morning, Richard Pollack. Hey, it is time for Radio Science News. Not the penny whistle, the Winnie whistle.
Don't get confused. The penny whistle of science.
The penny whistle of science.
Well, that's just a little teaser.
So is that because this isn't St. Patrick's Day?
Well, it's actually because we have it's in the rules of the Smart Center and the Near Earth Object Foundation's founding documents, which are carved into aluminum plates and they're buried. No, that we have to always celebrate
The nearest
day to St. Patrick's Day.
Yes.
We celebrate Irish scientists like the guys that invented Guinness. Who later went, then they invented Guinness records. I think they were 45 RPM, but I'm not sure.
And then they did the Guinness World Records.
Those are all.
Right.
But
okay.
but we do have. I have a favorite, a scientist from the beautiful Emerald Isles, and we'll talk about him later.
If we don't, we
I just feel
don't
badly,
get that pot of gold, right?
Well, that too.
Right, okay,
I
all
do
right.
feel pretty bad about it.
Okay. Hey, the reason that we're talking about St. Patty's Day is that this is March 19th, 2022. You're listening to Radio Science News. This is episode number 830 in a series. And you can hear the leprechauns dancing just off to the side. It's a fabulous time here at Radio Science News. If you're into prime numbers, the number 830, anything that ends in a zero is probably not. It's divisible by, of course, both 2 and 5. 830 is also divisible by 83.
Wow, that's cool.
Just
I like
pops
that.
right out there,
I do
doesn't
like
it?
that.
So, hey, we need to get our listeners, and I know that you're out there.
Oh, they're out there.
I know that they are certainly out there.
They're out
We're going to get you to the Launchpad of Science by way of smartcenter.org. So if you pull your car over, unless your car is driving itself, then you can just ask it to please
Alexa.
tune in. Alexa, please tune in to www.smartcenter.org, smartcenter.org. And on your large screen will, of course, pop up the webpage for the smartcenter.org. Just in the bottom part of that first page, you'll see a little trifecta rainbow there. That's in triplicate, the Radio Science News t-shirt that we had made up long ago, and we keep trying to decide who gets to wear it. But, there's only one.
One size fits all.
One size fits none.
We did spandex because we thought that would be
But
more
it is really bad, yeah. So just above that little trifecta rainbow of saying Radio Science News in triplicate is the link for Radio Science News, and I'm going to link on to that for my first time. Oh, and you were talking about Watson, and there he is.
Ernest.
So for Saturday, March 19th, 2022, on Radio Science News, or you could go directly to radiosciencenews.org. We do not keep you from doing that.
That's right.
The Launchpad of Science has E. Watson.
He's an earnest scientist.
He is an earnest scientist. Beryllium
Ireland.
8, one of my favorite isotopes because it's so important in stars and a stellar light and nuclear fusion. And it's a very short-lived isotope
So sad.
that literally just turns into 2 atoms of gas, which I just love. Then we've got hypersonic.
Yeah.
Then we've got trajectory.
Yeah, I never thought in my wildest days, as I actually added this topic this morning, that we'd be talking about hypersonic.
No,
On the news.
You would hope that wouldn't ever be utilized
It
or
wouldn't come
even
up.
talked about
It wouldn't come up or come down either way.
in any conversation. Then we've got space station, hydrogen pipes.
Hydrogen
I know
pipes.
where you're going with that. Be little, be brittle, hydrogen pipes. Then
Histones.
histones.
Those people who fail to study histones are no way. It's about a biological thing that some people might be very
I
interested
am
in.
interested. I just hope that I don't get any histones.
you probably won't.
I do not want to pass any histones. That's for darn sure. Blue stars.
Blue stars.
Then moonwave. Ooh, I like the concept of moonwave. Sacred pool.
Sacred pool.
You know, long ago when I lived in American Samoa, I had this idea. I of course didn't do it, but I
Okay.
was going to, because of the crystal
Oh yeah, how
big thing.
The water.
I was going to cleanse people's crystals in the sacred pools of Pongo Pongo.
Boy, Robert,
I of course didn't do anything
could be a
because
hotel there now.
because I couldn't bring myself to do it because I'm going, I can't do this to people. Okay, and then there's the permafrost.
Permafrost. Got a little permafrost issue with the at like the Arctic Circle. So we'll
Yeah,
talk about
they
that.
do. And then of course the equinox chart.
Yeah, and we have, the thing is, we probably
We have an equinox coming up in just a couple days, don't
also,
we?
since before we jump into all these things, and like I want to talk about like my favorite Irish scientist,
He is
and
way cool.
let's take a quick look at the equinox chart.
Let's
and
do that.
I did that because, it just kind of the equinox can sneak up on people if they're not thinking about it. Now I think about it
Well,
because
everybody thinks about the equinox.
the nice thing about the way our house is oriented, it's almost like it's a north, south, east, west orientation. And, just as a weird aside, it was actually a house that was built in 1913 and it was moved. And when it was put down on its present location, my mother-in-law, who had the house at the time, said, no, I want it turned 90 degrees.
No.
So they did, and that's cool.
No.
But the nice thing is our kitchen window now faces fairly, not exactly directly east, but very close to it. And one of the nice things is, because of my knowledge of my backyard,
Right.
here's this big tree that I'm always aware of, and you can really get a sense of watching the apparent migration of the sun as it rises, further and
And
further
it- and-
toward the north in the
and
springtime.
it surely does, doesn't it?
And it's always nice because I have a sense every time we're at the vernal or the spring equinox, I kind of know that the sun's going to rise right at a position to the left of this big spruce, like 90-foot spruce tree that we have, and it's just a cool thing to
Nifty.
pay attention to. So this article is it's from those wiki folks.
A Wikipedia.
And it has a lot of cool information. I don't want to spend too much time. We always try not to spend more time on the so-called daylight savings time than we do on equinox, because
Right.
equinox is really important to people over the centuries, over the thousands of years. So this is a nice article. I'm going to pick out one little sentence down here. Long before conceiving of this kind, they talk about the equality, the fact that they're all kind of cool things. The fact that the definition itself has to do with the fact when the plane of Earth's equator passes through the geometric center of the sun's disk.
Isn't
You're
that
going,
cool?
what does that mean? But you get into lots of really interesting math, and the fact that it's perpendicular. The equator is perpendicular and to this and that. But the part that is cool is that long before anybody was spending much time with definitive math, it says primitive especially equatorial cultures, noted the day when the sun rises due east and sets due west.
Right.
Now, you didn't have to be equatorial to recognize that,
No.
because
You
wherever
could
you
see
are,
that just about
that shows up in
anywhere.
all sorts of
Yep.
archaeoastronomy and neat stuff. Anyway, the little chart that's over here shows us that, Robert, apparently here in March at
March 20th.
then they show that 15:30, that's military time. So, that's going to be like, I guess, 3:33. Well, that's kind of interesting. That's tomorrow. It's going to be the actual vernal equinox.
Awesome.
You know what I mean,
Very cool.
Vern?
I do indeed.
I remember
Vern.
Vern's equinox. I always liked
Verns,
that.
yes, the Verns equinox. I
And
love
if I'll tell you what, if you're scheduling your equinox parties up through 2027, and
you have the dates and the times
and you know
right
what
there.
I always say, book your band early, because you don't know what they'll be doing,
Book your band
or whether
early.
they'll be out of prison yet. You don't know where they'll be. So that's a nice little chart. And again, read this whole article, because there was a lot of stuff here that I wasn't even. I mean, they get down to the fact that it says, since the moon, and to a lesser extent the planets, causes Earth's orbit to slightly vary from a perfect ellipse, the equinox is officially defined by the sun's more regular ecliptic longitude than by its declination. And
That makes perfect
I
sense.
said, sure, that makes sense to me too.
Line me up for more of that.
And there's some really just nice charts, especially if you're a teacher, like the charts that
Yeah.
show illumination by the sun at the time of you look at it, you go, wow, that is so cool. because
Square
it's-
on, isn't it?
Yeah, and then some nice little things about the Earth's seasons related to this, and besides, for as they said, primitive cultures, or you didn't have to be primitive to appreciate those things. The idea that the equinoxes and the solstice are parts of almost everybody's history that paid attention to the skies. And in fact, just as another teaser, we're going to talk about that, because the sacred pool, Robert,
The sacred pool.
Sacred Pool is related to that. We'll get to that in a second.
Okay, all
But
right.
anyway, because it is close to St. Patrick's Day, and
And the equinox.
you guys had this one of the things that people have obviously noticed, if you're noticing that, the winter solstice is kind of almost like Christmas, and you notice, St. Patrick's Day is kind of like the vernal equinox.
Isn't that interesting?
It is interesting.
I like that.
So I'm not saying that there's.
So I wonder why St. Patrick's Day doesn't fall on the vernal equinox.
Well,
I've often wondered that.
Well, you do have to realize that most of the people who instituted calendars had things all mixed up.
They were a couple days off here and there.
There were some
sometimes.
Romans who tried to set up calendars, and some very august Romans.
Augusta Romans.
They would serve Caesar salads at the celebrations. And, all right, let's just jump into this, because I have once again put so many topics up. I even dumped some topics, Robert.
You dumped them.
If we have time left over, because we finished up with laser lens last week.
Yeah.
We didn't get to brain song or the
didn't.
little virus or the graphene, and we did the nickel chart.
We just might have to put those out.
I
for
decided
some other
not to
time.
dump them. I just moved
Okay,
them back,
sure.
and we'll
Just
we'll
move
hit
them
'em.
down.
Let's take a quick look at this E. Watson. When you
Let's
click at
do
E.
that.
Watson, you're going, what am I looking at? It says 15 euros.
Yeah.
Okay, what do I got down here? I got an alpha particle up here and another alpha particle.
Yeah, so up in the left-hand side, you'll see the Greek letter alpha, and then above that is another Greek letter alpha. That is an alpha particle. That is 2 protons and 2 neutrons. That is a helium nuclei. And if you
Yeah.
look off to the right, you'll see an Li with a little heaven at the top.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, there's a big E that's going off, like there's energy.
Yes, yeah. So that Li is lithium, and it's a lithium 7.
Yeah, now,
which is,
hence my mention of my false memory. I was thinking that the Ernest Walton coin, and I actually,
Okay.
because I was so excited about this, and we were,
I would love to have one
I
of these.
have one of
really
these.
would.
I got a couple years ago, and because I said,
I really want one.
the reason why, and I was thinking that on the coin itself, it actually showed lithium, then beryllium, and then.
So
Because this is really an important thing. So if you take a look at this coin, one of the big discussions about Ernest Walton and the experiments that Cockcroft and Walton did to bombard lithium-7 with protons, I guess, right?
The P.
There's the P. The proton is banging into... And
So the proton goes into the lithium.
how'd they get that curve on it? They spin
I don't know.
They did a little
They
spin.
used a magnetic field.
They did a spin.
That's it. They
No,
used a
it was kind
magnetic
of a
field.
linear... These are
Yeah.
linear particle accelerators,
So the one proton, which is a
bang.
a hydrogen a nuclei, bangs into the lithium-7, which has 3 protons, 4 neutrons, and it is a very stable thing. Turns it into beryllium, which has 4
Beryllium
protons, 4 neutrons. Beryllium-8 lasts for just an instant, a sub-instant, and then it decays into energy, E is equal to mc squared, and 2 helium nuclei, which is the alpha particles.
Yeah.
What is neat about these alpha particles is both of those alpha particles are traveling away from the beryllium-8 at 5% the speed of light.
Yeah, so they're slow moving, and
So
again,
they
slow
are-
protons seem to do a better job than fast protons.
But what I'm saying is, not only do you get energy out of this, you get the energy of these alpha particles moving at 5% the speed of light, which is really fast. And so as they go zooming off, heat is produced.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah,
Well,
just a fantastic.
and as I said, the
neat
thing that I had,
love this coin.
I had thought that the coin actually included in its little story the brief transmutation from lithium-7 to beryllium-8.
But they don't,
And it's not, and in some ways it was kind
because
of
it's so brief.
Well, and so I was looking up, the reason why it's an interesting discussion is because a lot of we've talked about the ECAT and these different things that are trying to produce some more interesting forms of modern energy, clean energy, and it seems pretty clear from the Andre Rossi ECAT, the energy catalyzer, which uses lithium as kind of a fuel thing, and then there's a lot of mysterious stuff, but there's an absolute clear relationship that at the beginning of the thing that generates light and heat and electricity from the energy catalyzer, the ECAT, Andre Rossi's thing, that you start with the isotope of lithium-7 seems to decrease, and then there are other lithiums that increase, and so it became very clear that beryllium, that lithium to beryllium, and then the breakdown to was important. So I said I need to look at this more closely because
beryllium-8.
Because all the stories I was looking up about why they got the Nobel Prize, for the most part, people didn't actually seek to try to prove Einstein's E equals MC.
No.
Because they said that there's a lot about the fact that it was, it's not included in much of the discussion about it because they mostly just said, well, the equation that we're talking about, the simple equation was the one you see on the coin, which was, that you hit it with a proton, lithium-7 spontaneously decays into, turns into alpha particles plus energy. And so that was the whole, the experiment that they did offered support.
Yes.
But as they said, they didn't mean it to be a proof, nor was it a proof.
All right. So when you go to the beryllium-8, it says it decays into 2 alpha particles with a half-life on the order of 8.19 times 10 to the minus 17th
This is really
seconds.
This is a super fast decay.
This is unbelievably fast.
Yeah, and even if you want to give it credit and say, well, what about its full half-life? Let me double it. But no, that's not. Spin 0 according to this. They're the decay products. It's helium.
It says this has important ramifications in stellar nucleosynthesis.
That's the part that's cool.
When you're in a star, you're converting one element into another, as it creates a bottleneck in the creation of heavier elements. The properties of beryllium-8 have also led to speculation of the fine-tuning of the universe and the theoretical investigations on cosmological evolutions.
That is just that's absolutely cool.
Had beryllium-8 been stable. Had it been stable, things in stars would be doing different things.
Yeah. Now, the couple little things that I saw in this that I had not thought so much about, it actually defines this beryllium-8 radionucleotide. nuclide as an unbound resonance.
Yes.
And they say it is nominally, so it's kind of they're indicating that to actually call it a,
Right.
they're actually not hedging, but they're calling it an unbound resonance. The other thing I thought was really cool is if you go over to the chart that Robert was referring to, if you go to its natural abundance,
Yeah.
zero.
Because
it just cannot exist that way.
Because it goes away like that. Yeah.
Now, the part that was important relative to the Watson and it says here, Ernest Watson, the discovery of beryllium-8 occurred shortly after the construction of the first particle accelerator in 1932. British scientists John Douglas Cockcroft and Ernest Walton performed their first experiment with their accelerator at Cavendish Laboratory in Cambridge. They irradiated lithium-7 with protons.
Right.
So it says they reported this. It says they reported that this populated the nucleus with A equals 8. I guess that's the particle that near instantaneously decays. So they did know that
Yeah.
they were looking at this as they called whatever the unbound resonance.
Yeah.
It says this activity was observed again several months later and was inferred to originate from the isotope beryllium-8. So this is really cool, and I mean I think it has some really interesting ramifications to all
Yes, it
these, like
does.
the energy production things that we were saying that seem to mystify a lot of people, that seem so complicated, aren't really complicated if you know that you can set up equipment or a mechanism and an environment that allows, even if very briefly, beryllium-8 to emerge from the process, that contains lithium-7 as the so-called fuel and some sort of resonance and maybe particles bouncing around. All of that is left to be determined. But the idea that you're looking at an isotope, or as they said, defined as an isotope of beryllium-8 that does that, without any other significant dangerous radiation. These are big deals.
Let me read something.
Oh yeah, I like that
here.
part too.
It says, owing to the instability of beryllium-8, the triple alpha process is the only reaction in which carbon-12 and heavier elements may be produced in observed quantities, which means the reason that we're having this conversation is that beryllium-8 is not stable.
Right.
If it were stable, then there wouldn't be an alpha triple process, and there wouldn't be a lot of carbon around, and there wouldn't be everything after carbon. There wouldn't be a lot of nitrogen and oxygen and iron and on and on and on. And so, it's a good thing.
Yeah, the triple alpha process.
The triple alpha process, which makes stars shine, essentially.
Does that have to do with sports betting or anything?
Nothing to do with sports betting,
thank
no.
goodness.
Thank goodness.
All right, so let's jump to the story that I just found really depressing this morning. Hypersonic. And you know
Hypersonic,
what? And you know, I'm going to point out something else. I've actually put up a link to Al Jazeera News.
Okay.
And you know what's really amazing? I probably never would have thought
That you would be quoting them?
well, that you would be quoting as accurate and honest Al Jazeera news over, say, for example, news from the Soviet or the Russian. You would think, wouldn't everybody just tell the truth? I don't know. But this
truth is what you want it to be, and if you do something wrong, you will tend to lie through your teeth for quite a long time because you really shouldn't be doing what you did.
Well,
so
I'm going to say,
I think that's what's going on.
I'm going to say that the Russians bragging about their use. It says Russia says it used hypersonic missiles in Ukraine for the first time.
I think that the reason for this is that they're trying to scare people.
Well, yes, they are.
But I believe what it really boils down to is you are so
You're
in a bad way here that you have to use these weapons on a bunch of guys that just have guns and Molotov cocktails and borrowed stuff from somebody else. And you have all of these tanks and airplanes and everything else, and you have to use this kind of.
and I'm going to say
that's just.
it is.
That's beyond the pale.
And I mostly
really
I wanted
is.
to kind of understand this, from this, the fact that they decided they had to test these, and the idea will be they want to find out whether we can detect them or stop them. I'm thinking this is so. Now, in terms of that, borrowing stuff, I always think if stuff is borrowed, you want to return it, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of hoping that all of the stuff that that countries in Europe had sort of borrowed from the former Soviet Union. You know, like all those MiGs and.
They should.
I'm hoping that
I give them back.
I'm hoping that some of that stuff will be returned to.
I believe it's being returned as we speak.
Well, so anyway, this is a pretty interesting thing, and this is from Al Jazeera. So if you scroll down, there's a whole bunch of stuff about it, and apparently they're thinking that somewhere over the Black Sea these things were launched, and they went clear up, to where now they're bombing the western part, and there's a lot of stuff here. But I thought the discussions were very interesting because a lot of people have said, okay, big deal. So you have a hypersonic. That's great. Something can go really fast, and now there are some issues with these that make them even more. Worrisome. Now, so I found an article from ArmyTimes.com, and it was talking about what should be the United States' next move on hypersonic technology.
Okay. Is this the
trajectory?
All right.
And even
trajectory.
I've noticed I'm getting more pop-ups these days, but the article is actually kind of a long discussion about. Starts with the knowledge that that it says Russian President Vladimir Putin's boast of his nation's progress on hypersonic technology, and makes you wonder whether we're looking into it as we should, if it's the right idea. And I've heard many people say, well, it's not such a great weapon in this environment,
No.
Somebody was pointing out it's kind of like, like the say Stingers and the Javelin. These things are so effective because that's kind of what's going on. It said it reminded them of the fact that the Roman armies realized that the best weapon they could have was the short sword.
Right.
Because
That's
the
a
way
good point.
everybody ended up fighting, if somebody came at you with like a 15-foot, spear, and you were able to dodge it, then all you had to do was walk up the spear and kill the person because they couldn't swing it back into
Right.
position. So the part that is fascinating about hypersonic weapons, and I'll read this little part. It says hypersonic weapons can travel multiple times faster than the speed of sound, Mach 5. And here's the other thing, and they can have some maneuverability mid-flight. So that makes
Right.
them capable of penetrating defenses, and they're harder to track because they don't have a predictable path.
Right.
Now that part of it makes perfect sense. Anybody that's ever
So
watched
it's-
a
Yeah.
movie of like you're watching some thing of a cheetah on the grasslands of Africa trying to bring down a thing. The reason why they often can't do it is because their prey
It's constantly
changing its path.
speeds
So
and
I
path.
thought this was really a fascinating little chart just to look
Yeah,
at.
it's a really interesting chart.
Because part of what it says both China and Russia have invested heavily into this hypersonic research. And if you scroll down, you'll see pictures of China's. Here, look at these things China has. They're like real spiffy looking, very, very sharp, flat things. And so China has them and Russia has it. And they're talking about.
Yeah, but I can't imagine using them on women and children.
Well, the sensible thing is they should not be
What
used
are
on
you
anybody.
doing?
So the part about this that I thought was fascinating, if you look at this chart and it's on the this Army Times page, the idea is that if you have a launch site and you send up a real what they call ballistic missile that enters, that exits the Earth's atmosphere pretty much, and then comes down.
It's up there for a long time, and it goes in a known predictable path.
And even if you have a hypersonic cruise missile, for the most part, it even has a very predictable path because
Right.
once you can see, a launch that lights up on satellite sensors or whatever, you kind of know where it is, and you can determine this pretty quickly, and that allows you to prevent it from landing where they want it to. The thing that they're most concerned with, and it shows a picture of what looks very much like the Chinese one that was on the picture below. But the idea is that it goes up and then it becomes a hypersonic glide vehicle, and they show its trajectories being, it can go up and down, left and right.
Right.
And so that's why it's such a big deal.
So it makes it very tough to bring down.
Yeah,
It's 11:30.
it's again, I say it's a sad, depressing concept.
Yes,
But,
it certainly is.
But the only other thing I do think about is that because they were saying, should we spend a lot of money in? First of all, we don't really want to have a bunch of things that are offensive weapons.
No, we don't.
And there's only one thing that's a little bit better than no matter how fast your hypersonic thing can go, Robert. If I have technology that uses the speed of light,
That's
then
true.
Then it could
It
be.
goes even faster.
It could be even faster. Now, when I said that was a depressing story, here's another depressing story that I'm hoping is just again bluster. This is about the fact that the Russian space chief threatens International Space Station over sanctions, which I think is.
I don't think that's real.
So-
I don't think.
Well, no, I mean he's come out and they implied that they're going to maybe take their guys off and strand the.
No, they won't.
They won't let us. Oh, the thing that they were mostly saying was, we're not going to let you use our engines anymore. And of course, Elon Musk started laughing at that point.
Okay, so here, this was February 25th, 2022.
Right.
Just yesterday,
Yeah, I hope there's good
there
news on this.
were wait, it was either yesterday or today. I forget. I get which because it's beginning to blur. There was a launch from the Soviet Union, and 3 cosmonauts just went to the International Space Station.
And they were going to bring some
And
back, right?
they were wearing outfits that were yellow and sort of blue.
Well, see, now that's really good.
It was really interesting.
That could be maybe more
So
trouble.
I just want to say that as interesting as this is,
That's a much nicer. That's
there's
a
some
much nicer story.
updated information to this that appears as though that at least the Soviet Space Agency.
Here it is. Wait a minute. Here it popped up as a little story right
What?
here. Russians enter International Space Station wearing Ukrainian colors.
There we go.
See, now this is going to cause some trouble because apparently there's and I don't know. I hope that you didn't actually see it. I saw this giant rally that looked like a combination between
I did too.
between Adolf somebody in Vienna and like a rally where you had like thousands of people. I'm just going to say,
Yeah,
before
I
I don't want to
saw that.
spend
It was
any time
very,
talking
very
about
scary.
it. Except the part that I did notice was you can't really read body language well when you have a bunch of people that have been asked to come to a giant stadium,
No.
right? But you know what I noticed? I noticed that the people that were waving the flags were kind of like, "Is this enough? Will this be
yeah.
enough to
My arm's sore now.
I don't think I wanna-
Okay, I clicked on that link from our link.
Yeah.
And it says Russians entering International Space Station wearing Ukrainian colors.
Well, that's great.
So here, look. So
Yeah.
3 Russian cosmonauts arrived at the International
How's
Space
this
Station.
gonna turn out?
Wearing
man.
okay. The men
Yeah.
were the first new arrivals on the space station since the start of the war. Boba was asked about the suits, and the cosmonauts were able to talk to family back on Earth. He said that the crew chose the colors. In fact, we had accumulated a lot of yellow material, so we needed to use it, so that's why we had to wear yellow.
Oh, sure.
I like where you're going with this, dude.
Who, me? What?
Who, me? What?
What, me worried? Oh, jeez.
Oh, okay, yeah. So
Well, that's cool though. But I guess that's what you would call. I'm thinking under
Wow.
other great leaders of the
So-
world, plausible deniability.
yeah. So it says here, why there's a little video, a little 1 minute 12-second video that says that Russian cosmonauts have arrived at the International Space Station, the ISS, wearing the colors of the Ukrainian flag and what appears to be a message of solidarity with the invaded country.
Wow.
The 3-person team docked with the Soyuz capsule with the outpost for a mission that continues a shared Russian-U.S. presence in orbit despite tensions over Russia's
Well, and
invasion
that's
of
what
Ukraine.
That's definitely the definition.
That is
the
as
definition
of-
of let us rise above
that
this whole
is
thing.
as of an hour and 20 minutes ago.
No, that'll be good.
Okay,
They
as
may-
of what we're doing right
They
here.
may be even traveling over the sea of as if.
As if.
As if. Oh my gosh. Well, one of the things that is again very, we like to link things together when they do seem to be pertinent, and one of the things that is so frustrating for everybody who looks at this situation is, why is it possible for Russia to just sort of blackmail all of Europe into being timid on certain aspects of reacting to this? And we've talked about how it's energy.
Oh, it's energy.
And if you were to look, say, back the last couple of weeks, we've talked about, even in West Virginia, seeking. I'm looking back at February 26th, the concept of a hydrogen hub, where part of the moving into greener technology has folks like Senator Joe Manchin advocating strongly for the idea of maybe an Appalachian region hydrogen hub in West Virginia in this area. And there are a lot of interesting reasons about it. Now, I know that it varies because a lot of folks who get excited about the hydrogen hub are, of course, are thinking only that we're going to have hydrogen that's green generated with solar or wind, and that's great because that will address a lot of the carbon dioxide issues. But other people are looking at, well, we can use our natural gas, or we can use our coal, we can use different things. And so there's always going to be a mix of that. And I'm going to have to say, to his credit, that Senator Manchin has said that he speaks of it as like we have to be realistic of what the transition will be like. Right. Just like, a simple thing would be, you can't just tell everybody to drive electric cars because a lot of people don't have them, and it takes a while to transition.
Exactly.
So the common sense thing, and I'm going to say that his latest statement to me sounded fairly balanced in that he advocates for using what we have now with the clear goal that we're moving toward these other goals. And the idea, if you're an area that's rich in hydrocarbons, well, it's certainly fair that you could look for ways to create usable hydrogen for a hydrogen economy from those, and then maybe find ways to either sequester or somehow handle the other stuff, while at the same time you strongly advocate for moving to those green things. And if you take away every other discussion, because some people are just, well, I'm only about the environment. Some people are about, well, it's the economy. We have to worry about jobs. Well, you can look at all of those things, but no matter how you look at it, if you're moving forward and you want a really good argument, Senator Manchin has said you have to understand, and that's why it comes back to this whole the Ukraine situation. It's a question of national security. You can't be blackmailed by somebody saying, hey, kid, you've got to give me your lunch because otherwise you go, well, I don't need you just have to have the independence to be able to not engage in any of the blackmail. I
completely agree, yes.
So anyway, to that point,
hydrogen pipes.
Because Senator Manchin has actually pointed out something, and I've said this to many people, and I think I've even conveyed it to him, that I'm not so excited about the fact that we're at a natural gas boom in this area. It's not so much because I'm looking at it around, I'm going, well, there are good and bad issues. One of the things is, if we actually do put down a pipeline system, that pipeline system could be in place for when we get to a much more logical hydrogen economy, if we could use those pipes.
If we could.
Now, one of the problems is most of the pipes they're putting down are just metal.
Right.
Okay,
and that creates a problem.
Creates the two big problems.
A huge problem, actually.
And in fact, one of them is a little problem. Hydrogen is so little as a molecule that it
goes
leaks
right into the a lattice structure of the metal.
Yeah, and if you have any kind of like leaky spots or stuff,
it will come right through.
It leaks, and it also, as Robert says, that's the concept of brittleizing the
makes
metal.
It brittle.
Means that if there's stress on it, like if there's freezing in the ground or heavy stuff, it'll
break,
crack.
It will break and crack that, so you can't use metal pipes.
And now the thing is that one of the things that Senator Manchin was aware of and mentioned, he says, well, we can retrofit it. And he was talking about a lot of these existing pipelines. You can just put an interior sleeve pipeline that you can actually, and that's kind of what this is about. There also are some really good technologies. I know my younger brother was involved in gas transmission, and he said sometimes they could coat. They had a thing called pig. It was something small enough to go in. If you picture like a little squirrel that went inside your thing, it's running down the inside of the pipe. But you had devices that could maybe go through and put epoxy coatings and stuff. So the two things that we're looking at both address this thing, because they're talking about repurposing pipeline infrastructure for hydrogen.
That's a really cool idea.
Well, and the thing is, you and I have talked about this for the longest time. I just noticed, though, sadly,
that
to continue
you have
reading.
to subscribe.
Okay, well, the gist of this is, so anyway, just so this idea enters your brain in a way that the top of it basically says hydrogen, a colorless, odorless, tasteless, flammable gas, is mainly used as feedstock for chemical industry, but It says, following the publication of the United Kingdom's hydrogen strategy in August 2021, and this past week there was like a big meeting of Europeans. The Europeans are looking at this very strongly. And
I bet they are.
It's going to take a while to do anything. So
Yes.
to the right, there's also some interesting things that just March 11th, I see this another link. I'm sure I'm not going to be able to read it either, but it talks about the fact that Air Liquide hydrogen plant near North Las Vegas. Graham Cooley reveals details about ITM's Power's second gigafactory at Hydrogen 2's virtual hydrogen summit in Europe. Breakthrough technology to enable hydrogen production below $1.50 a kilogram in Australia. So those are all I'm sure we can find those, and maybe we'll talk about them later when they don't make me sign up to read past the second sentence. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks.
It's probably got my histones in an uproar. I'm not sure. Let me see what it is.
Got your histones in an uproar.
No, this is a really cool story from. And again, I'm always fascinated when the folks at PhysOrg, which is a bunch of physicists guys,
says tiny protein variation has a huge impact on all
Wait a minute.
animals
Are
and
you
plants.
saying? This is like the commercial that's making me. I get totally annoyed. Wait, what? Wait, what? Tiny protein, and I love the picture that they've taken.
They have an
Here's
elephant
a big
in a
bull elephant.
in a sunlit, moist forest, probably after a nice heavy rain. So scientists at Yale and University of Ottawa have shown how the tiniest biochemical variation in one protein is crucial for the replication and repair of DNA in all plants and animals.
This is literally all planets and animals. All plants
March
and animals.
17th of the journal Science. That was only 2 days ago.
Yeah, this is
The
it.
findings provide new insight into histones, a highly basic protein that plays a critical role in packaging DNA into chromosomes. For decades, biologists have wondered why one variant of histones, known as H3.1, differs from its otherwise genetically identical twin H3.3 by a single amino acid.
Single amino acid.
Wow.
And then here's the part that I just found astonishing. It says, from the evolutionary standpoint, the difference is crucial. The H3.1 variant is found in all plants and animals.
Wow.
Leading scientists believe that it is somehow involved in genome replication during cell divisions, but it's still a mystery.
The exact role in this process, however, has remained a mystery.
That's a language, which means we need another grant.
More grants.
Anyway, so this is just an absolutely fascinating story. They went through and it explains, how they came to the conclusions they did. But it says, Jacob said it demonstrates how the smallest difference in protein sequence can have a tremendous functional impact throughout evolution.
Wow.
For those that believe in that.
I do.
Yeah, I do too. I'm with him on that. So anyway, I just thought that was a really cool story. That's amazing.
Boy.
One little amino acid. Well, that's when, a lot of times that's when people go, well, why do we worry about dumping weird chemicals in our water?
Yeah,
you go,
it
did you know that
possibly change one teeny tiny little thing?
one amino acid? Well, and I've been waiting to get to this story, but this is about the blue stars, Robert.
Blue stars.
Blue stars shining in the moon. And this is cool because it said that Earth's purported nearest black hole is not a black hole. They're saying it's not. You were just so wrong when you thought about that.
I am frequently wrong, and that's okay, right?
Willie
Because
Nelson could
that's
do it.
the way that science works.
Here's
you think one thing, and then you get brand new information,
Well, and
new stuff comes out.
And to be honest, it wasn't so much that there isn't a black hole there. It's that according to this first paragraph, what they thought of as a black hole that was the nearest to Earth is actually a stellar triplet. 2 stars and a black hole in a complex little celestial dance.
So they were correct. It was a black hole.
Yeah, but there was more to it than that.
More to it. Okay,
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So this is really cool.
Stellar triplet. That is a nice phrase. Stellar triplet.
Well, check this out. A massive star locked into a tight 40-day orbit with a non-feeding invisible black hole. So it has
all right,
not.
So you've got a star that's close enough to the black hole, but not to orbit in 40 days. but it's not so close that it's drawing
Drawing off,
atmospheric
yeah.
material away from that star into the black hole. Okay, so it's
So
a non-feeding
at first they thought
black
it was
hole.
one star, and then it turns out that that with some more study and data, it says that it's actually only 2 stars. Oh, it says they think it might be. Oh, the guys that looked at it subsequently think it's only 2 stars and no black hole. Oh, so this is how the story has evolved. It says the new data can make out finer details in this. Oh, it's used. Oh, here it is. With more powerful telescopes. I wonder what they used here. Oh, here it is. They used the Very Large Telescope Array in Chile, and man, this is really detailed stuff. So they basically, the bottom line of their analysis now is that forget the black hole entirely.
That
they think it
is the core of a star.
Yeah, the siphon star, its core it could fool astronomers looking at the older data, thinking it was a young star. Okay.
With 10 times as much mass. Oh, it originally appeared as though the star was orbiting something massive, but invisible, a black hole.
Yeah, so we have
okay.
it's just a newly discovered binary star system,
Gotcha.
HR 6819. That sounds like House resolution, like they're
It certainly
voting
does.
on that in the West Virginia legislature soon. HR 6819.
It says once the researchers unraveled the system's details, they realized that this system is a unique one, showing astronomers a phase not seen before among systems with massive stars. It's a missing link in binary star evolution. That's what you need.
I like it.
Look for those missing links. You find them and more information. So for you black hole fans out there, this is sad, but for you people that want to learn more about different things going on in the stellar universe, this is exciting. This is very cool.
Well, the only part that at first I was the other thing, because I'm very much into like knitting and quilting and stuff.
I know you are.
I think of colors, and so I was thinking, so what defined these as blue stars?
They are hot.
Here's the up at the top. It says, instead it's 2 blue stars, and as Robert points out, it's they'll look at like red giants and blue dwarf. It has to do with the energy being
It is extremely
spewed
hot.
off.
Very, very, very hot stars.
Stars. Yeah, that's
love
probably
it.
that is cool. Now this is also one of the really fascinating concepts. Now they point out that this is
a moon wave.
Yeah, this is pointed out that this is a proposed addition to all these different very expensive neat concepts we have to detect gravity waves. And so this one says that the moon's orbit is proposed as a gravitational wave detector. Now, the big thing
How do
is...
we do that?
Well, and that's when I first read this. I thought, well, wait, so now it is a proposition that someone has put forth, but I love things like that where they go, well, this doesn't require that you invent new equipment or you
It's
launch something expensive.
already there.
It says
Okay.
that, here's what they're proposing. Did yours pop up yet?
Yeah. It says this is from the Université Autónoma de Barcelona. March 17th, 2022.
Oh, there was
Researchers propose...
St. Patrick's Day again.
Yeah, well, that's why.
They're drinking,
Researchers propose using a leprechaun. No. Researchers propose using the variations in distance between the Earth and the Moon, which can be measured with a precision less than a centimeter, as a new gravitational wave detector within a frequency range that current devices cannot detect.
Isn't that cool?
The research could pave the way for the detection of signals from the early universe. So if you can know the distance accurately at all times between the Earth and the Moon
I'm
to
assuming
less
this is
than
a
a centimeter.
I'm assuming this is a laser analysis. Like
to less than a centimeter. When a
Wow.
gravity wave comes through,
you're going to detect it easily.
you're probably going to see it because that distance, the in metric, the average distance between the Earth and the Moon is 399 kilometers. So within a centimeter, you're going to be getting this down to like
This is really good.
millionths. That'd be down to billionths. 1 part in billionths. And what's going to happen is, when you do this, and anything comes through to change that, you're going to see it like this. Wow,
this
this is
Now
brilliant.
he says at the bottom they say what's most interesting perhaps is this method. It complements missions that are already planned,
Sure,
like
yeah.
LISA observatories. It's the SKA square kilometer array. It says they
But
basically.
it's not going to cost you anything.
Well, and also here's the thing that's really cool is it
All that
says
you have to do is just observe it.
those existing things they cover gravitational waves in the nanohertz and the
Right.
centihertz
Right.
frequency ranges, but at present we don't have anything in the microhertz.
Right.
Now he says it's challenging. We may have to come up with new detectors.
Because to see it, you would need something gigantic.
And you
like
have something
The
gigantic.
distance between the Earth and the Moon.
That is really wild. This is really beautiful.
See, most of these, you're looking at 1/10,000th of a light a second
Yeah.
a distance, or 1,000th of a light second distance. This is 1.26 light seconds
This is
from the
really
Earth to the Moon.
This is really cool.
Wow, this is really awesome.
And the other thing about it,
Hey guys,
it says this connection between.
nice. You're going to have a great time with that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome.
Yes, yes, it is. See you,
Have
folks.
fun.
Bye.
The idea that you could, and we've always talked about the elegance of doing something like this, but where you take fundamental
is
aspects
just
of the universe
Brilliant.
and then take more mundane objects is particularly fascinating.
And to use the distance to the Earth Moon that we already know,
And we know how to measure.
and we understand to use that as the tool to say, hey, we already have the tool. All that we have to do is now observe
Plug it in. Yeah, that's so cool. And it points out that besides these really expensive other things like
Wow.
LIGO,
Sure.
this actually provides potentially the earliest signals that we that could be detected and change our whole view of the cosmos.
This is I am going. It's
one of my favorites.
Going to need to read through this. Yeah, when I first looked at this, I'm going, well, how are you going to do that? And then all of a sudden you're going, whoa. If you do know that distance accurately,
Right.
to within less than a centimeter, over that huge distance, yeah, this is.
Well, and it even goes back to, I think you and I
This
were
is
talking
awesome.
about that when I was in high school. I actually got to visit Bell Laboratories where they had come up with that weird little array that if you fired a laser beam at the moon, no matter, it would reflect back, so you can measure.
Retroreflectors.
And so that
Yeah.
that's been on the moon for some time. And to a certain extent, you go, okay, well that's great because it gives us an accurate
It certainly does.
measurement. And here's where somebody probably was sitting around, and apparently this was St. Patrick's Day. I think they were probably at the bar. They were sitting down there. That thing with those reflecting lasers. What could you do with that?
Those are still there, right?
Yeah.
And our computers are better, and our telescopes are better, and our software is better, and we've had more time to look at it. And
Maybe we should try this.
maybe we,
This is a thought experiment.
It's almost as if we accidentally bumbled into leaving something there on purpose.
Well, and that's
that you don't have to do anything to other than just bounce a laser beam off.
That is, I mean, and again, I
Wow.
love it because it's such an elegant.
It's very elegant.
It's at this point a proposed thing because, as he said, it has to do with making sure you had the right ways to. But it's all within our grasp for
Yep.
sure.
It's right there.
Now, when you talked about your sacred pool,
Sacred
Robert,
pools of Pongo Pongo.
I like it. It could be a.
And I just couldn't bring myself to do it because it would have been wrong. Very
Well,
wrong.
hey,
Ancient
don't let that
seafarers-
stop you. It doesn't seem to stop anybody else. So.
Ancient seafarers built the Mediterranean's largest known sacred pool.
Now, you've heard about this story, but not in this
A big
context.
pool on a tiny island helped
Check this out.
Phoenicians track the stars and their gods. Okay. So
So first of all, here's this thing they
they
found this on an
excavated
island.
a sacred pool by the Phoenicians about 2,550 years ago on a tiny Mediterranean island.
Now, of course-
Which tiny Mediterranean island?
No, I'm not gonna
Includes
tell
a
you.
replica of the statue of the god Bala at its center.
So here's the
right.
reason why this is so fascinating. I have seen about this, and I think I've seen this, and it may have even been on one of those I don't want to say cheesy cable shows where they're
Oh,
discovering
oh,
things, and if so,
they-
then.
yeah.
But
And if so,
for the longest time, they thought it's on the island of Motia.
Oh,
They
Motia.
thought that it
I
was
have not
like
been there.
they thought it was like some kind of an artificial inner harbor or maybe a dry dock for repairing ships.
Sure,
Because everybody's thinking, why? What was this thing for? Because it was really, I mean, you can see from the construction. There's a
Yeah.
beautiful stone. And so for the longest time, they thought of it just as a practical, like a station where you pull in and get your tires rotated and all that stuff. But here's the part that's really fascinating.
I don't think they had tires on their yachts.
Somebody pointed out. Somebody pointed out that the pool had there were these 3 nearby temples, and after they started paying some attention to it and doing part of what people fail to do is think
Yeah,
that
have to just look around.
well, and
right?
they fail to think that people like Native Americans or Native anywhere, people that were ancient folks, that somehow they had no sense of mathematics or angles or measurement or anything.
Or they never looked.
They didn't pay any
looked up at the
attention.
sky, or
So-
saw stars or the moon or the sun.
So after they decided to look at this in it from a different aspect, they come out. It says the pool could not have served as a harbor because it wasn't connected to the sea. See, I was going to say, there's your first clue, right?
Clue number one.
They thought maybe they just
not
didn't have-
connected to the sea.
Yeah. He and his team temporarily drained the basin, showing that instead spring fit. It's a natural spring thing. So I'm just thinking they could have put a brewery next to it. It says only after Greek invaders conquered this in 396 was the channel dug from the pool to a nearby lagoon. So the part that's so cool is when you scroll down, well, first of all, they talk about some of the really cool stuff they found. Oh, I thought it had an actual. There was something where they showed the alignments they were talking about. Oh, here it is. It says that they discovered that one of the there was a temple and a worn statue associated with astronomy found in the corner of the pool, and then by excavations and doing some mathematical analysis, they found that the Phoenicians settled between 8 and 750 BC. The sacred pool included a pedestal in the center that originally supported the statue, and that it was the kind of thing that they looked at the reflections and things.
Yeah.
So
Neat.
this is it's really, I mean, it's again one of those fascinating. It's one of the oldest keys to Phoenician success through the Mediterraneans.
So, all right. So this sacred pool was used for astronomical observations.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Wow.
as oftentimes we talk about, like say Stonehenge. Stonehenge has a bunch of things around the edge, and then part of what you do is like you stand at one edge and you look through clear to the other edge and you
Right.
see the sun. Now the other thing that can happen is, and this happened in our region with ancient, what they think are archaeoastronomy sites. In fact, an archaeologist friend told me that when they built the Willow Island power plant, which later collapsed, and some people say because somebody was taking revenge on them. They actually they excavated this whole site, and he said that it was a kind of a Stonehenge kind of thing, like a
Neat.
circular thing. But he said in the center was what they clearly were able to decide was a large, probably like a spruce tree that was 4 feet in diameter. That was a center post.
Oh, wow.
And the way a lot of these things worked, according to what archaeologists and people interested in archaeoastronomy has said, that you could have a hinge, like a circular thing,
sure.
and there would be different places where you would either stand, and sometimes you would think, oh, I'm going to look from one edge to the other. But if there were a central thing,
Right.
then you could have things where you would stand at one place and you would use the top of that to define
To
a
watch
certain
things.
star, like when Venus was going by, or So this is a it's a fascinating
very
little
neat.
thing. So I think we might all actually make it to the ones that I didn't
think we
eliminate.
might. Okay, I think we got
Permafrost.
one more.
Permafrost.
Permafrost.
Oh, I love that permafrost. And my hair used to be so boring, but with permafrost, I'm able to get those little streaks.
You
that
look
are,
so much
I
better now.
frosted my hair, but now it's all frosted. Rapid changes in the Arctic seafloor noted as submerged permafrost is thawing. Now, see, Robert, this could be bad news if you have maybe an ocean floor. Of course, most of the gas wells and things that they're doing out there are floating rigs, but it says the Mbari researchers. I wonder if they're from Africa. No, that stands for something else here.
This from the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute.
Yeah, the folks that named themselves Mbari.
Maury. That makes
That
sense.
sounds like a new Disney movie, doesn't it? Mbari coming soon. But they're talking about the degradation of the terrestrial permafrost is attributed caused by. I better kick on some music here. I'll keep it down quiet. Yeah, that's quiet.
That's perfect.
So it's something they're just starting to see, that there isn't a lot of data about the seafloor temperature, but what they're seeing, Robert, I know this is going to surprise the heck out of you. They're seeing a warming trend.
No.
And the trouble with like big, we've talked about not only permafrost, but when you have the clathrate trait made up of methane,
Yeah, that's going to be
gets
a
to a
problem.
temperature and
And then they just expand.
it says the changes in seafloor terrain are being driven by heat carried in slow-moving groundwater systems. So it's all connected, Robert. I'm telling you, it's all connected.
Hey, we actually got through all of our stuff this time.
Well, pretty much.
That's really
I'm going to put
awesome.
this over in the middle and see when I click it off if it stops where I want it to. Now you're going to verify that I have the button ready to go.
I am ready. Okay.
I'm going to try to hit it.
Goodbye, folks.